Victoria is unique in Australia as it has its own Bill of Rights called the Victorian Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities. It means that public authorities have a responsibility to act compatibly with human rights when developing policies, making laws, delivering services, and making decisions. It is easy to understand your rights under the Charter because the 20 rights listed as sections are the same no matter which local or state agency you are dealing with. The Victorian Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities covers all government departments, local councils, government agencies, and even private companies when they are doing the work of government. The Charter ensures that public authorities must act in ways that are compatible with human rights, that human rights must be taken into account when developing new laws, and that courts must interpret and apply all laws compatibly with human rights.
Any Victorian Act that you are using to make a complaint against somebody else, you're alleging a breach of a particular Victorian Act, no matter what it is, you can also include in your legal complaint, if it's appropriate, that the acts or the omissions that you're complaining about also constitute a breach of the Charter. If something is happening that you believe is a breach of the Charter in terms of the mistreatment of a person with a disability, a service provider, you may not have any intention of taking it further in terms of a legal matter, but you can certainly say, well, look, in terms of being reasonable and in terms of fulfilling your own organisation's obligations, you may want to consider the fact that your failure to do A or B doesn't seem to be compliant with the Charter. So you can also raise that with government policies and procedures as well. The only thing that you have to remember is that the Charter only binds public authorities.
This includes hospitals, prisons, schools, and any other entity that is doing the work of government.
So at Whitehouse, we found the Charter to be really useful in advocating for young people with disabilities. We had a case a while ago where a young person was being excluded from things at school. The school was about to expel them because of behavioural issues they were having. We wrote a letter to the Department of Education and Training and pointed out that under the Charter they're obliged not to treat somebody with cruel or inhumane treatment or in a degrading way, and that was what was happening to this young person. We had identified that this young person had probably a learning disability that at the time wasn't diagnosed, and that was one of the barriers to making sure that they were included. So in using the Charter to kind of back us up, we then asked for the department to do some testing and see whether this young person had a formally diagnosable disability. And that's what the department did. They went away, they did some testing, found that the young person did in fact have a disability, and they were able to put some supports in place.
The Charter is a great tool for letter writing. Dear Sir or Madam, Section 12 of the Victorian Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities concerns the right to freedoms of movement. My client has the right to leave the hospital whenever he chooses.
Section 11 of the Victorian Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities concerns the right to freedom from forced work. This means a person must not be made to perform forced or compulsory labour.
It's about using every weapon in your arsenal, I guess, that you think that you can to get an outcome for your client. As long as you probably know, firstly, how far you can push it, because if you're dealing with an organisation that's definitely not a public authority, obviously you're going to have to decide that you'll use it in a softer way because there actually is no legal obligation for that organisation to comply. Yeah, I mean, no organisation would like to hear that it's breaching human rights or it's not upholding human rights. That's a sensitive issue, hopefully. And so there's no harm in raising parts of the Charter that you feel apply to your client's situation with anybody.
It's sometimes really hard to look at a document like the Charter and go, oh, this is really high level and kind of abstract. How does it fit to a situation? But when you use it that way, it can have a really positive impact on the lives of people with disabilities.
So the idea is to look quite carefully at what you're alleging in your substantive complaint, the treatment or the failure to provide the treatment, and then you've really got to familiarise yourself with the Charter, and so you can quickly be able to match up what section of the Charter is being breached by the act or omission. And the more you get used to using the Charter, the easier that will be.